So the problem that I'm going to talk about today is my husband is a mama's boy. So I received this problem from a 25-year-old female. Let me first read this out word for word. I fought with my husband. My husband is a mom's boy. He's sharing our each and everything happening in our life with his mother. My mother-in-law is a fault finder and she didn't like me. So she's always complaining about me. For his mother's happiness, he's scolding me for small things. I feel alone even after marriage life. By the way, I received this problem from a form that I've shared in the comment of my YouTube video. You can fill that and share your own problems as well, and I'll try to make a video on them. Let's come to the problem. I want to first address the mistakes that are being made here. I'll first discuss husband's mistake. There is a very important principle here that a couple relationship should supersede all other relationships. It doesn't mean that you ignore other relationships. It doesn't mean that you go away from them. But if you have to prioritize somebody, it must be your partner. And your husband is not realizing this. And this is of course equal for everybody. Your mother-in-law should prioritize her husband. Your husband should prioritize you. You should prioritize him. And when the same thing happens generation after generation, I think it makes up for a better society and a better family, of course. There are multiple reasons for that, which I won't get into right now. But the conclusion is that the couple relationship should supersede all other relationships. The pair bonding remains the central thing around which everything revolves. And your husband is not realizing this, and that's why there seems to be a mess here. There could be many reasons behind his thinking. Maybe he thinks that it's his duty to put his mom first. Maybe he thinks that that's what would make him a good son. And he probably also thinks that it's his duty to make sure that his wife conforms to this idea, that his wife also serves his mother. Now, being grateful to your mother is important. It's actually essential, but going to an extreme where you start prioritizing them over your partner, that's problematic. Another mistake he's making is that he thinks that he has authority over you, that he can push you to behave in a certain way. He is acting like the mother is the center of the family. Like mother comes at the top, and then him, the son, and then comes the wife who is supposed to please the husband and the mom. Now, what is the mistake here? The mistake is that he has not given you equal status in the family. And the principle that he is ignoring here is that all adults in the family should have equal status and equal dignity in the house. No matter what your age, once you're adults, age does not matter. All adults are equal. Now I'll talk about the mistake that the mother-in-law is making. The mother-in-law is making a mistake that many parents unfortunately make. They just don't understand when to let go of the control. They don't understand when the parenting stops. Your mother-in-law probably still thinks that she knows what's best for you and your husband. She probably still thinks that she knows what's best for a good household. And what's good for the household? Listen to her orders, do it her way. If you don't do that, you're going to get criticized, you're going to get scolded. What your mother-in-law is not realizing is that each adult and each couple has the right to decide their own needs, aspirations, desires, likings, dislikings. Each adult, each couple should be allowed to make their own decisions, design their own household. They should be allowed to make their own mistakes. Even if you and your husband you do something which goes against the traditions, which is unorthodox, it's fine. It's actually beautiful. There's now diversity in the house. But your mother-in-law just doesn't realize this. She wants to control things, thinking that's the best way, when it's not. So now what do? What's the best course for you? First, I want you to remember that you should never ever feel inferior. Just because they are taking sides, just because they are teaming up, does not mean that they are better, that you are inferior. Just because they are shouting at you, just because they are showing dominance, does not mean that you don't deserve respect and dignity just as much as they do. Do not be scared of anything and anybody. Now let's start with understanding him. I talked about why he might be doing it. Before you take a stand against it, before you fight it, you need to have some sympathy and some understanding of what's going on. I know it's hard for you right now, but you do need to see things from his perspective as well. So you need to see that for him, pleasing his mom probably goes very deep. It's probably part of his identity. Like that's what he has seen growing up. That people who respect their parents, they deserve respect from others. And people who ignore the parents, they are hated or condemned by others. So maybe it's an absolute core value for him to keep his mom at a pedestal. So technically, his deeper desires are actually good. He is coming from a good place. Wanting to love and respect your mom, wanting to prioritize your mom is a good thing. She has done so much for you. So what you can do is first agree with this value 100%. You don't have to fight this part. You can easily jump on board with this, which is both of us will respect your parents and both of us will respect my parents. Sometimes people won't even agree to that because sometimes husbands tend to think that somehow their parents are of slightly more value than the wife's parents. And of course, you should not put up with any of that nonsense. There is absolutely no difference here. Both of them are absolutely equal. So your language with your husband is, I agree with the idea that both of us, that all of us should respect and cherish our parents. But then the question is how to do it. Now your husband might say that respecting my mom requires do whatever she says, don't talk back, let her take all the big decisions, spend time with her for 2 hours every day, take care of her health, etc. etc. This is the part where you can disagree with things and negotiate. You can tell your husband, listen, I will try to do whatever I can for her, but some days if I don't feel like, I can also say no. If she is rude to me, I won't just keep quiet. I will ask her to talk to me nicely, I will ask her to calm down, and if she does not listen, I have the right to walk away from the conversation, take a break and come back to it later. I will listen to her point of view, but I will take final decisions for my things. And when it's a joint family decision, I will say my part as well. I also want to spend time with her, but I don't think I can do 2 hours every day. Maybe I can manage half an hour every day or 1 hour alternate days. And as for her health, I do want to take care of her health, but I want you to help me on this. So you get the medicines from the market and I'll make sure that she takes them on time. Do you see what we did here? You both want to respect the mother-in-law, but you are going to do it in a different way. And you have a right to fight for and stand for your own way. You have the right to negotiate for it. The next thing I want to say to you is that please remember that this is probably going to be a very long journey for you. This journey would be of you gaining your equal status and position in the house. So as you go through this journey, please accept the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario here is that you're probably going to feel even more alone than you already are. As you stand for your rights, they will be shocked. They are not prepared for this. And they might fight back. They will start showing their non-cooperation. They might come back even harder to suppress you sometimes. And that would lead to clashes, a lot of negativity in the house, during which you will feel very, very alone and weak, and you will feel that there is nobody out there to support you. But please remember the good old saying that sometimes things tend to get worse before they get better. You need to persist. You need to keep standing up for yourself until you gain your equal position in the house. Now I'll say a few words about how do you deal with the mother-in-law situation. See, first again, I want you to see that there are good sides to it. Where is she coming from? She loves her son dearly and she thinks that by taking decisions for his life and by controlling everything, she's doing good. But she doesn't realize that she's also doing something ignorant. So you can appreciate her love for your husband, but you can also reject her control. Some days when your husband agrees with you or has to listen to you, she might not like it. She might feel that now you are taking her son away from her. And that is her problem, not yours. So what I want you to understand here is that your mother-in-law is also ignorant about many things. She has some irrational belief systems because of which she will get angry sometimes. She will start disliking you. She will sometimes stop talking to you. But that's not your problem. Her emotions are not your problem. Ultimately, every adult is responsible for their own emotions. You cannot take the responsibility of keeping her happy. If you think you can make her happy, you will keep failing at it just like you always have. But again, don't go too far with this. The next point is about being reasonable with it. You have to make sure that whatever you decide, whatever you do or say is independent, is related to the issue and situation specific. Meaning you have to make sure that you don't get biased against your mother-in-law as well, because you can start going in that direction as well. So don't reject ideas just because they are coming from your mother-in-law. Because when you go through a loss of power, when you're going through a sense of powerlessness, it's common to want to show your power wherever you can. Sometimes you oppose decisions simply to show that you can oppose. Some days you'll find yourself opposing your mother-in-law simply to test your husband's loyalty. But I would say please don't go down that road. These indirect ways of trying to gain power don't work and they cause way more damage. Because every time you fight against something normal or reasonable, you lose credibility. So you need to make sure that despite their unfair attitude towards you, you have to remain reasonable. So if your mother-in-law someday gives a good idea, you have to give her that credit. You should go with the flow. Try to think of each issue independently. Only fight bad ideas, not people. As for your mother-in-law's complaints, I must tell you, you should not take them too seriously. But the question is how. It must affect you a lot, right? The core idea here is that you should be able to discount somebody else's opinions of you whenever you want. How do you discount her opinions? There are multiple ways. First, you know that she's a bit biased. She favors her son, not you. She will forgive his mistakes very easily, but will keep talking about your mistakes. What does that tell you? That tells you that she's not talking about objective truth. Hence, you don't need to take her seriously. Also, when she's commenting on you, she's not really talking to you human to human. She's talking more from a mother-in-law position, where she probably thinks it's her job to keep the daughter-in-law in control, to teach her good things about family life, to teach her how to serve my son well, and all of these are problematic ideas. So her criticism is also coming from aspirations or desires which you disagree with, which may be quite irrational. So why give value to the criticism originating from those desires and aspirations? Maybe her criticism is coming from the fear that you will take the son away from her. So if she can make sure that the son sees your flaws, maybe she can keep the son close. Now again, her analysis is not exactly objective about you. It's simply fulfilling her conscious or unconscious agenda. And above all, she's also a flawed human being. She's not perfect either. In fact, if you ask her mother-in-law, she will tell you many flaws in her. What does that tell you? That nobody ultimately has a right to look down on somebody, to be rude to somebody, to be condescending, to be judgmental. We are all flawed. Nobody has a right to destructively criticize other people. And if somebody is, you don't need to take that seriously because they are committing hypocrisy. So whenever she criticizes you too much, you can simply reject it as #she's not qualified. And you also mentioned in your problem how your husband keeps scolding you. Now, scolding inherently means that as if husband has a higher position over you. Please never ever accept that. You need to demand your husband to talk to you nicely, calmly and constructively, and you have to do the same with him. You also mentioned in your problem how he shares every little thing with his mom. I understand that some issues are very sensitive for you and you don't want your mother-in-law to know them or maybe anybody else to know them. So you can keep telling your expectation of privacy to your husband, but also remember that he's an adult. Ultimately, he has the right to share everything with whoever he wants unless he has explicitly promised not to do so. This concept is very important to understand. Now, if he promises you that he won't share something with his mom and he still does, then it's his mistake, for sure. But other than that, it's his right to share whatever he wants. Overall, I would tell you, don't worry about his mom knowing things about you. As long as you remember your own rights, as long as you remember your own status, nobody can do anything with you. Nobody can push you, nobody can pressure you, nobody can rule you. All they can do is talk about you, let them talk. You don't need to go in the direction of covering people's mouths. You just need to learn to deal with it. And how to deal with it? Let them talk, and when that talk starts to actually interfere with your life, then you take a stand against it. And my final point for today is, yes, your husband might be making a lot of mistakes by favoring his mother over you, but that does not mean that your behavior would be perfect. I can guarantee that you are making a few mistakes too, or maybe more than few. Maybe you're not taking the responsibilities that you should. Maybe you often act too selfish. Maybe when you talk, your tone isn't right. Maybe you're too sarcastic. Maybe your expectations from the husband or the family are extreme. Maybe you come with an air of superiority which makes them not like you. So when your mother-in-law is criticizing you, when your husband is scolding you, you can of course demand that they talk to you nicely and constructively, but please keep an open mind to what the criticism is. Maybe there is some truth behind it, and there probably is. Accept that truth and work on it. Improve your own life, improve your own behavior. If you don't improve your own mistakes, you have absolutely no right to ask other people to improve their mistakes. So please keep that in mind. Thanks for sharing your problem. I hope this helps. Good luck. These videos can help you to some degree, but if your problems are very serious or painful, you should come to us for counseling. At Shridhar Life School, we specialize in counseling for couples, parents and children. Yes, the full family. We now have a team of psychologists who can help you and your family live a much better life. Here are some feedbacks from our clients. If you wish to take counseling from us, go to our website page www.shridharlifeschool.com/counsel. Click on this link and fill this application form. We will get back to you soon.